Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes. Aquí tienen las instrucciones para el día de hoy, lunes el 30 de agosto o martes el 31 de agosto. Your homework for today were the conjugation online games, and you can find those by clicking here to this link. Pick any 3 games you wanted to, play them, score at least 70% or higher, and then take screenshots or pictures of those 3 games and submit them in Canvas here. That was your homework for today. And let's take a look at what we got going on for today's agenda. So we're going to go over the notes that we took last week on conjugating verbs in the present tense. You can find those here. The first item of the agenda, the PowerPoint that we went over together, talks about the 3 parts to a verb in Espanol, what it means to conjugate, and then some example conjugations there. We went over these notes last week. We'll briefly go over them again together. And then we are going to do a little bit of in-class practice. In-class practice is from last class as well. I believe we started some of these activities together. The third item on our agenda. This is out of the workbook. Nothing you need to submit, it's just practice. Circling the present tense conjugation in each sentence. For example, mis amigas viven in Nueva York. This is the verb vivir, to live, so you'd circle that. Carlos come en casa a las 6. The verb in this sentence would be come. Circle that. So do the same for 3 and 4, and then for part B, you're circling the conjugation that matches the subject. Remember your endings. Oops, not there. See if I can pull those up again real quick. Your endings for verbs in the present tense are on page 9 of the textbook. You have these in your notes, but it's also in your textbook as a reference. Your endings for AR, ER, and IR verbs here. O, as, a, amos, an. O, es, hemos, en for ER verbs, and O, es, imos, en for IR verbs. That's what we went over in the notes from last week. And you'll use those to figure out the ending that matches the subject. And the subjects are also in your notes. You can see how the subject matches the ending for each of these. D is fill in the blank with the correct conjugation. Skip C and go to D. Filling in the correct form of the verb provided in parentheses. Lolis corre en el parque. Tu montas en monopatín. And the big one we're going to do together is part A. This is guided or core practice page 4. Core practice page 4, asking you to fill in the blank with the correct form of those verbs provided in parentheses. That is going to take up a good amount of our class time, and then you have a quiz that looks very similar to this that'll be coming up next week as well. So this will be great practice. And then finally, the last thing that we're doing today is bingo. And you can find bingo here, at the very bottom of the agenda. It's due next class. Click here to print out, or you can do a binder sheet of paper and make 4 bingo cards that look just like this. But instead of B-I-N-G-O at the top, you're going to put yo for B, tu for I, N will change to él, ella, usted. Nosotros is going to go here for the G column, and then this final column is going to be ellos, ellas, ustedes. So once you have those headings for all 4 of your, or all 5 of your vertical columns, then you're going to take 5 infinitives, 5 regular AR, ER and IR verbs, and you're going to conjugate them. And you can pick any AR, ER, and IR verbs you want. So this first game is going to be 5 AR verbs. Conjugate them in the yo form, in the tú form, in the él, ella, usted form, nosotros form, and the él, ella, usted form. So for example, the verb hablar would be hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, hablan. You can put those conjugations anywhere you want in their corresponding vertical columns. Another AR verb, practicar. Yo practico, tú practicas. For él, ella, usted, it'll be practica. Nosotros practicamos. Ellos, ellas, ustedes practican. Yeah, so you're just filling in all 5 conjugations for 5 AR verbs. That's game 1. And you don't need to worry about playing if you're absent. Just fill in the board correctly. Your second game is going to be all ER verbs. So you can pick any ER verbs that you want. For example, the verb comer. And then your third game on the back is going to be all IR verbs. And just conjugate them in all 5 forms. For the fourth game, you're going to pick a mix of AR, ER, and IR verbs. You have at least one of each. One AR, one ER, and one IR. And then when you're ready, submit it into Canvas. But what you're doing is you're demonstrating your ability and proficiency to conjugate verbs regularly in the present tense. All right, so that's your homework for tonight. Due by next class. It's worth 100 points, so it's a big one. Take your time with it. Make sure that you have everything filled in correctly, and feel free to reach out with any questions you may have. All right, muchachos, that is the agenda for today. Lunes el 30 de agosto, martes el 31.